All right, y'all. So good to see you today. My name is Izuli, and we are here for Leather is BIPOC with another amazing conversation tonight. I appreciate y'all being in the space. I feel like this conversation is super important. And actually, one of this conversation came about. I go to CUNY Graduate Center, and I remember that I was watching this beautiful conversation, and we were talking about how leather spaces and dungeons were transformational, right? Being able to really feel liberated in that space. And as I sat at the CUNY Graduate Center talking about how liberated dungeon spaces and kink spaces are, there was folks who were online in a hybrid situation that were really expressing how inaccessible spaces were and why were we not having those conversations. Oftentimes I say the conversations we're not having is because folks are not in the room because they're not thought of, right? Because spaces are not accessible. So today, as we talk through this conversation about making leather accessible, I want us to think about who are we constantly not seeing in our leather and kink spaces, and what would it take to change that, right?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is your Leather is BIPOC team. I am Sir Raven. He's the least part of the team, Narrow and Venny. We put this together with a lot of thought. Welcome. I'm going to go over some of the community guidelines so that everybody's on the same page. This discussion will be recorded for archival and educational purposes. Respect everyone's pronouns, isms, and phobias will not be allowed in this space. If you need to remain off camera for privacy reasons, please do. No screenshots the chat, no screenshotting of the chat. Mute all microphones unless the facilitator tells you to come off mute. Utilize the raise hand option if you wish to come off mute. No arguing in the chat or use the chat for harm. The chat moderator will send you out of the room if you do. No questions asked. We have zero tolerance when it comes to that. We will be using the stack method. Be mindful of the space you take up in this discussion so everyone has a chance to share. Listen to understand and not to respond. Take the time to process what you've heard. Don't expect complete agreement or definite answers. This is a discussion, not a debate or a lesson. And I also would like to add one thing. If you like what you're hearing, if you agree, use that reaction button to let our speakers, our educators, our presenters know that you feeling that shit. Thank you. Mhm.
All right. So every time we come into the space, really think about fulfilling our promise to the past and what is our duty, not only to love these spaces, whether they're digital or in person, but to keep them alive. And I really want us to go back to September 24th, 2015, where we see Fasa Ali and Mama Vi having this beautiful conversation in the archives and really saying the responsibility to collect leather history is not the archives, but it is ours. And as older folks, they're like, the younger folks need to give us the stories and we need to hand them back. And there's this bi-directional, loving, beautiful moment that's happening. So she says the responsibility on us is to preserve it, to have these conversations, to get off of the digital revolution where she said everything's online now. So the government wants to push a button and say leather doesn't exist. We don't exist, right? And poof, it disappears. To make sure you have a paper trail, make sure you document the conversations that you have. So we took that call to say the next generations is the guardians to the future to guarantee that we will never go back, that we'll never have to silence ourselves, and we can stand proud in our leather as BIPOC folks. So again, welcome to the space. And also just sharing some of the flags that leather is evolutionary, right? When we see more of the beautiful flags, where we see the first leather flag that was made in 1989. And as things progress, like we saw a Pan African flag. I love the BIPOC leather flag to really talk about, nah, we do this. This is not a white thing. We've been here. We true to this. The Latin leather flag that came in 2023 and the Two Spirit leather flag in 2024. So we here. If you feel like you don't see yourself represented, we are here and we love you and appreciate that you're in this space. But as we talk about appreciating beautiful BIPOC folks in the space, we have to love the ones who really can see and challenge how we can make things better, right? To me, leather is service, but it's also accountability, right? When we're leaving folks out and how do we bind ourselves to each other. So we're going to read a couple of quotes just from some amazing people that we love who are really pushing back about our place is really accessible. So Akasha Eden, who's a Northeast Slave 2024, and your International Miss Leather 2026 says, as a leather person and kinkster, I notice we often overlook the sensory and cognitive architecture of play space setups. Take, for instance, the high intensity environment of a dungeon. Their overlapping music, bodies, and social demands everywhere, and pretty unpredictable social scripts. All of that can lead to sensory overwhelm, which can end nights early and cause drop for neurodivergent folks. Thank you, Akasha, for your words.
And then we have some words from Monique. She says that leather spaces that are inaccessible to disabled bodies aren't just incomplete, but they're also unjust. Accessibility shouldn't be treated like it's a damn privilege to be granted. It's a right that must always be built in. She identifies as a dope-abled leather girl, bold, present, and belonging. I'm going to say that again. Bold, present, and belonging, because that belonging piece matters a whole lot. Leather community is mine too, and therefore event organizers must always remember to make room for bodies like mine to be seen, valued, and celebrated at these various leather conferences and events.
Thank you, Monique, for your words. Nerdy Princess. As mobility is a huge issue for me, even before I start using an aid, narrow walkways, crowded spaces with few chairs, and cramped rooms with no space to keep my balance have made it really challenging to be at a lot of events. I've walked out of classes, events because of it. Thank you so much, Nerdy Princess, for your words.
Yes. And then, of course, we have MX Jade, who says service is not specific to either side of the slash. It is the slash. We serve our ships, our community, and chosen family. It's important to put the human back into what it is that we do. Showing up for one another is what builds community, not our titles and honorifics. Consider what it takes for those with chronic pain and the chronically ill to show up and join in. How we honor one another and create intentional space regardless of our access needs is what truly shows we are about this leather work. Thank you, McShade, for your words.
Y'all looking beautiful. Come on now with the glove. I believe my sibling of Onyx. Being a wheelchair user and EMSL accessibility volunteer, I don't think we talk enough about using resources already within our community to create accessibility. Leather gatherings are often organized by dedicated community members on volunteer time. Organizers assume the labor of accessibility is too time consuming and expensive, so they give up before tapping into resources at all. However, like most leather solutions, we simply have to be more creative. Sometimes the very people who want and need something are the very people who know how to get them. We must make the space to ask. Thank you so much for your words.
And without further ado, we are finally at the part of the interview. So I'm going to introduce Master Stilltoe and Reese. Master Stilltoe, the Boot Black, is head of the House of Still, where he focuses on leadership, kink, fetish, BDSM education, community service, and living openly to eliminate stigmas about kink, particularly for people of color. He was covered as a master by Master Shango in March 2024. Stilltoe's Boot Black journey started in 2017 at the New Jersey College of Kink's Boot Black 101. He was 2022 EMSL IMBB first runner-up and inaugural winner of the IMBB Brotherhood Award. He was the first Northeast Boot Black 2020-2021. Stilltoe also served as treasurer of the Leather Leadership Conference, LLC, board from 2024 to 2025, president of Onyx New York Northeast for 2020, and vice president for 2019, winning the Brother of the Year award in 2019. Thank you for all the work that you do. I still got some more to read, but thank you so much. Stilltoe has Black across the country, including IML, IMBB, MAL, Claw, Lake Erie Boot Black Weekend, and several leather contests and clubs. He's also taught classes via the House of Still, LLC, Boot Black Roundup, Virtual Boot Black Jam, Fascination in Provincetown, Kink University in Rochester, New York, for the Keystone Education Series, the Woods Campground Education Series, and various Onyx chapters. He's also served as a judge for BBM, the Woods Leather Contest, the New Jersey Leather Contest, the Keystone Leather Contest, the Northeast Leather Contest, and IMSBB. Steel Toe identifies as a pansexual male and is proficient in many kinks, which he is happy to discuss. He also lives in Newark, New Jersey, with his buddies Zeus and Don Chico. And then we have Reese. Reese Diamond is a native of Rochester, New York, where for almost a decade, he's been a leader in the kink BDSM scene of Western New York, with special emphasis on the destigmatizing of kink within communities of color through an annual gathering for education called Own Your Kink. He's the proud protege of Master Steel Toe the Bootblack, member of House of Steel and member of Onyx New York Northeast. He currently works as a licensed practical nurse in vascular surgery. Presently, Reese is midway through his registered nurse program with the end goal of attaining his doctorate in nursing practice and working in community health. This is the people that we're getting ready to interview. The accolades, the community work, the service. We got it here in the building tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over. Give me 1 second.
That's the Steel Toe. I don't know. I think you missed something. Come on, son. You missed something.
I thought I saw you somewhere else. Let me just highlight y'all. Oh, you gonna do it?
We got it covered. But we are really blessed to have somebody who is willing to put themselves out there and do education. Thank you. I'm not gonna say thank you for your service, but thank you for your service.
Yes, and y'all look so good today. I appreciate sitting here and being able to have this conversation with you and the work that you do. I appreciate being able to hear that bio, but sit with you and get to politic with you. Yeah. So I want to ask you, as we looked at all of those beautiful quotes and saw all those reactions, to me, it was like the reactions that we saw in the crowd was like, damn, somebody's saying something, putting words to an experience that I'm having. Right? We talk about financial privilege, but also the privilege to go into a space and it to be built for you to not even notice the things that all those beautiful quotes said, right? To be able to see for the first time. So I want you to help us see, right? When you walk into a dungeon or a leather event, like what tells you immediately whether the space was built with accessibility? And are there any community norms that are super unintentional or harmful to disabled, neurodivergent, or autoimmune compromised folks? Like, how do we start to recognize those things? What do we see?
So this is probably going to sound like I'm saying the most obvious thing ever. But the first thing that you look at is how accessible is this space for everyone? Are there stairs? If there are stairs, are there elevators that can get people to places? But then when you start digging a little deeper than that, you can start to notice that sometimes, even if a venue has a plan, it's not communicated to all of the employees. So, what do the employees know about providing access to an elevator that may not be for public use, but would help someone who needs it to get to another floor? What is the policy if there are only 8 stools at the bar and someone comes in who needs that stool in order to be able to be present throughout the night? What is the venue prepared to do to make sure that the person who needs that seat gets that seat? And many times you see where the needs come because people aren't able to stay and participate. The absence speaks very loudly about what is necessary. So, is there a quiet space for people who could be triggered by sound or a lot of the lights that happen in our bars? So, those are things that for me, like when I walk into a space, I'm kind of looking around. There are a few members in our chapter who are wheelchair bound. My brother Obelisk was one of the people in the quotes, and they are the most hinky people. A lot of times the assumption is, oh, that's so cute, but they can't. But no, they can and they do very well and maybe harder than you do. So making sure they're in the space is really important for the space to be the best kinky space it can be and for the pleasure to be maximized by everyone.
Yeah, I love how you said Obelisk because like they whooped my ass. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna come over here and do the little fundraiser thing. I was like, oh, I did not like I already knew that they was gonna whoop my ass, but they whooped my ass good.
I'm training Obelisk to be a bootblack. And so when we're sitting together and working on leathers and everything and having conversations about the kinky stuff that we've recently done, it's like people would be blown away if they really paid attention to how kinky and how active in the kink community that many people with disabilities who a number of people would disqualify from participation are. So it's really important to make sure that these spaces do bring in everyone, because by excluding people and making things inaccessible, we don't realize how much we're really degrading the quality of experience for everyone who is in that room. And so it's very important to make sure that people are there, and also that not all disabilities are visible. And so sometimes also just having that measure of grace for someone who may be asking for something. There are many times I need to ask for a seat if I'm somewhere, and people always look at me and go, "Oh, you think you're special." But no, I need that seat. If I don't sit, I'm not going to be able to stay. And so a lot of times just really having that grace. And you can also kind of tell by the crowd whether the venue or the event is really being intentional of making a space accessible. Because if that is the case and it's coming from the top down, then the crowd kind of goes along with it. When it's not the case and the staff isn't on board and the clientele is not on board, it can make for a very uncomfortable experience for people.
Reese, I would love for you to piggyback off of that because I know you're an organizer. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you organize in your work, and has your disability shaped the way you think about organizing events? And as an organizer, what do you wish other organizers understood because you're living it, right? What do you wish other organizers really understood about creating accessible spaces?
Peace to the family. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Piggybacking off of what Sir mentioned earlier, in addition to ramps and things of that nature, my first go-to is how welcome did you make me feel when I got here? We often forget the power of presence, how you make people feel when they get into a space before they even walk into the space. There was a personal situation that I had in a neighboring city in Buffalo where I got into a space. It wasn't a kink space, but it was a queer space. And the door person was doing wristbands. And I asked for my wristband to go on my right arm. And they said, no, we put wristbands on the left. I tried to explain to them that my disability is on my left side and I would feel more comfortable if they would place it on the right. And they were adamant that was not an option. Made a mini scene until I had to literally roll up my sleeve and present my arm to them and go, fine, you can place the wristband. And then they became extremely apologetic and, oh, I'm so sorry, but it ruined the experience for me because before I could even walk into the space, I already felt unwelcomed. So something along those lines is what immediately triggers to me how to maneuver within community, whether it's BDSM, leather, queer, across the board. How do we interact with one another in meeting? Do you know how to make someone feel welcomed and not a second thought? You're going to be here, let's make this space comfortable for them. That's something that I take in my personal life, and as an organizer, is something that I make sure is paramount with my organization's events. Making sure that the people that they see know how to greet people, making sure there are safe spaces within safe spaces. When they see me, they know that if I need a moment away, if I need a place to vent, if I'm having an anxiety attack, whatever place they're in, there's space for them here. And it's a safe space, it's a healing space, it's a welcoming space. And that's something that I believe as an organizer is not just important, but necessary, because we're dealing with people. People come with issues of various degrees, triggers and traumas and life experiences that transcend leather, that transcend BDSM. But because of that, it makes people think they don't have space in these kind of communities. When everyone's mentioned, that's absolutely not the case. And it's my privilege and my pleasure to destigmatize those moments, to break down those barriers, and to be a safe space across the board, whether I'm attending an event or organizing an event.
I appreciate you sharing that. And a common theme that I'm hearing from Master Steel Toe and you was this idea of having to prove, right? Prove that I need care. And I feel as kinky and leather folks, we always talk about the aftercare after a scene, but like, how do we skip the individual just in the space? Before we started this conversation, when you were talking about Master Steel Toe, this idea of invisible disabilities, I'm like, it ain't invisible to me, right? Why does somebody have to prove it's not invisible? There's an erasure that happens, right? And if we were more present to each other of what we need and how to serve each other, there would be nothing that is invisible because I would be bound to you and understand what you need. If I'm here, I want you to be here too, right? So that intimacy of knowing what each other wants. So I appreciate y'all both saying that, but that is wild, right? That care. And we think about who has access to spaces and who's desirable and has access to pleasure. That also becomes political. So we have to start to talk about that too. So I appreciate you saying that. And I'm wondering, as an organizer, has your disability impacted or shaped the way that people receive you as an organizer or as a leader? Because I heard Master Steel Toe saying, the way I present, people think the access that I need is because I'm better than somebody or because I'm a covered master, right? There's this perception. Does your disability shape how people perceive you as a leader or an organizer?
I will say yes, but let me unpack why I say yes. As an organizer, what I personally had to go through is I deserve to be here. So what happened is I would typically go into spaces, and due to trauma connected to my disability, I would hide in corners. I would distance myself. There's going to be a side eye, a negative word. Someone's going to assume that I need aid. Clearly, you need help. You have a disability. Because you have a disability, you need help. Don't you know you need help? Clearly, you need help. And I'm standing there like, where? If I needed help, I would ask for that help. But don't just assume because you see me with a disability that by default you now have to answer to my every beck and call. Now I'm not opposed to that. I think that sounds fantastic. But don't assume. For me, it's getting out of my own head when it comes to moments like that and standing on my own truth that I deserve to be in this space. I don't have to cower down in this space. I can stand in my fullness in this space, and my body is worthy to be here, however, my body is. So I won't say people treat me different as an organizer per se, but as an organizer, learning how to stand out front and to lead in the body that I'm in has been an interesting process for sure.
Yeah, I don't need your help. I'm good. I love what you are saying. Go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, just to join in on that, the help is a double-edged sword because yes, you do want people to be thoughtful. I'm always appreciative of when I attend an event and people have a seat for me because they know I will need a seat. And so that's something is, oh, that's really wonderful and considerate. Thank you very much. But there is also that the type of help that makes you feel icky, for lack of a better word, where it's the help seems forced on you. It seems less about what I need and more about maybe some performative act or some, I don't know, placation that I'm just not appreciating at that moment. So help is something that is wonderful to get, but it can also make you feel negatively about or contribute to a poor experience in the way that help is given. And as we said, asking, is there anything that you need is really the best way to help. Let me identify the help that I need and then be willing to do the thing that I
Absolutely.
need.
Yeah. Let me have autonomy. I don't even know you. So let me have autonomy. And also, when we think about who can provide care, interrogate who we think always needs care, what people can provide care and disrupt that. Because I might need something from you. So don't always assume folks are the ones who need to receive care. No, we often, as we're doing care networks, we can provide care to each other. But again, give me a choice, right? That's consent too. If we talking about ask me if I could hug you or ask me if I could sit with you, ask me if I need your help.
Right.
I appreciate you raising that. And as we think about, and I know Sir Raven often laughs with me and jokes about being a chrome and being older and the knees don't Megan like they used to and the things. Or I talk about my godparents who say, "Oh, I want to kneel, but baby, I ain't doing all that. So we're gonna have to figure something else out." Like, how do you hold on to your leather identity?
Like, how do you hold on to your leather identity?
How do you hold on to your leather
How do you hold
identity?
on to your leather identity?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna
he's ready because I believe that's the feedback. Yeah, thank you, Reese.
Okay. How do you hold on to your leather identity with confidence when your body or your access to community has shifted? And I just want to invite Master Steel Toe because I remember about 2 years ago, I was asking for you to come teach something in Newark, which was phenomenal. I don't know why you have 10 dungeons that you brought into this community center that I'm like, what more shit do you have? Where did you get all this? You're like, oh, this is only a third of what I got. I remember you put this vulnerable post up saying, hey, I'm having some health issues. I'm going to actually have to shift my teaching and my education and my service in the community. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is super vulnerable to see a master, in my opinion, say that. But again, that assumption, right, that you are not somebody who is going through your own thing. So, how has that, since that post and announcement, and what you're navigating, has that kind of shifted or impacted how you move through community and also your connection to your leather identity? How do you remain confident? Has it impacted that?
Before the post, at the point where I made that post, I had done a lot of internal work to be at a point where I could make that post. For those of you who may not know, 4 years ago in March, I suffered an episode of rhabdomyolysis, which is a condition where your muscles are in crisis. It generally lasts for 1 month. Mine has not gone away. Almost 10 different specialists doing all kinds of tests and many tests and procedures. They still don't know what the cause is, but the effect is that I don't recover after physical exertion. So it affected me in a number of ways, attending week-long conferences, even just carrying luggage through the airport, things of that nature. When I got to the event, I would be bedridden for a day at the hotel. Or if I flogged somebody or fisted somebody or a number of the kinks I really enjoyed, I wasn't able to do that. And for a moment, I did wrestle with my own identity as a leather person. And the thing is, leather people derive so much pleasure and joy and a sense of true belonging in the leather community and in leather spaces. And when you don't have, that's a huge loss. And I think if everybody really considered, what if you weren't able to go to IMSL or MAL or all of these different events where you're women are drumming events, where you're having these amazing play sessions and you're meeting all of these incredible people and just being surrounded by your people, and you're not able to do that anymore. So I had to really back down on the amount of teaching and judging, and I haven't worked a boot black stand in over 2 years, and that's a real loss of joy. So it really took me a moment to come to terms, and that is only as it relates to the leather community. And what people don't realize is I am not just a leather person, I am a whole person with a career and vanilla commitments outside of King Fetish Leather BDSM. And the way I was able to show up for them was even compromised. The things I was able to attend, I've had to miss weddings, I've had to miss funerals, I've had to miss a number of things because physically I was not able to be there. And that really does take a toll. So, what I finally had to focus on is that number one, I am not my condition. I am steel toe all day, whether or not I am in a stand or teaching a class or whatever. And I still have knowledge, enthusiasm to contribute to the community. And I still want to support people and I still want to be part of their growth and development. And the other thing that I learned is to focus on my agency and not the fact that flogging, I could flog somebody, I wouldn't be able to lift my arms for 2 days after it. So now that I'm not flogging, what can I do? Where can I focus? And what kinks can I do and not have a negative effect? And so that I'm still able to get the joy from the kinks and from being in community without having the detrimental effect afterwards. And when I started focusing on those things, what can I do? How can I be an active member of community? That's when I really started to find my footing again and to start to feel like myself again. But the community has been extremely supportive, giving me the opportunities to teach online, participate in virtual events, even at large events. I'm teaching from this room to a room full of people in Texas. And those kind of things help me to still feel connected and still participate and be myself.
In the chat, I'm gonna throw this to Reese. Sam said the loss of community is so real, hurts, and is harmful. And then I love how we quoted you, my body is worthy to be here, however my body is, which is beautiful, quoted already in the chat. What would you say? I'll send you the same question. What would you say for somebody who is struggling with their leather identity, with their access and
Get out of your own head. One of the things that in my leather process of being under Sir Steel Toe was learning how to interact with people. And one of those assignments that I got was to go and introduce myself to strangers. I thought that was one of the worst assignments you could have ever gave. I hated every second of it. And I made sure to inform my sir that I hated every second of it. The more I did it, the easier it became. It didn't make it comfortable, it made it easier. I learned rather that just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's not necessary. Learning how to engage is difficult, but it's still necessary. So getting out of your own head about spaces, still being aware of where you are and possibilities, but not allowing those apprehensions to hold you captive and hostage, primarily in your own mind. Because as I mentioned earlier, one of my brothers, brother, uncle, call, nicknamed me Lurk because I would hide out in corners and just watch, which still is my jam. A good portion of that was connected to trauma because I was afraid, I was fearful because of assumed harm. But once I got into a point in myself that said, I deserve to be here, I am whole right now, however I present. I am deserving of joy and pleasure, however my body is. And I can own this space right now. And so walking into any space, knowing that you deserve to be there, has been a huge help for me. In addition to that, I also have very Southern grandparents who taught me just to speak to people. And you don't know how huge it could be to have someone walk up to you and just go, hi, you've been sitting in this corner for the last 30 minutes and you have not moved. My name is, how are you? Oftentimes, you being the icebreaker can be the difference between someone staying in community or never coming back. You never know the anxiety that it takes people to break through to walk into some of these spaces. You don't know the pep talks that we often give ourselves before we go into these spaces because of assumed traumas, because of past, previous real traumas. It takes a lot just to be present. But oftentimes when you get there, anxiety is real. It's a thing. And so you'll retreat. So if you see someone that looks as though they might be having a bit of a difficulty in the space, kindness is everything. If you see someone in a dungeon space that may seem a bit apprehensive to play, engage. Offer to play. Offer to have the conversation. Do the thing. Have the talk. Create the space that we say we want to live and dwell in. That to me is huge as well. Hopefully I answered the question. I'm sorry, I went off on a little tangent.
And I was like, preach. I had my little notebook writing on the things. I often say this too when I go to kink parties, right? I really like Lesbian Sex Mafia does all of these things to get us to talk to each other and do these icebreakers. And I'm like, wow, even if I don't play, the ability to connect is really why I came to that space and I feel great. Where other places, it's just like you pay a whole bunch of money, throw you in here. And I'm like, as people who say, oh, Izuli, you're extroverted. I don't know how to talk to people in the space. Can you help me out? So we also have to not just create the space, but how we're going to facilitate connection. And that's also creating accessibility too. Like, how are we going to be together? And like, how as organizers can we facilitate that to help that? And I love kind of what you already started answering my question. So I'll post it to Sir as well. I hear Reese, you're talking about a lot of the internal work and some of the community work. Sir, can we hear a little bit more about that community work? Like when things have changed and when people's capacity have changed and the protocols have changed and they're feeling down, what do you think as community? And I say that word as community, not performatively, but community that actually stands with each other. I stand next to you in solidarity with the things that you're going through. Like, how do you think the community could show up for each other when capacities change, when things have changed, when our bodies have changed, to make sure that your leather deserve to be here? And I hear you that you're having this moment because you're a human and we do those things. But what is the community work alongside of that internal work that Reese is talking about? What can we as community who's actually living the word, what can we do to show up for each other?
There are three symbols on our house patch that speak to community togetherness. One is in constant, which talks about community is a chain link. The community is only as strong as its weakest link. One is the Toso in Toso, which is linked hearts, which is a symbol for family. And the other is Eben, which is safe space. And all of those are really intentional. And part of being that safe space and being family, being community is checking in. So many times there are people who drop out of our community, and it's like you'll one day look up and be like, I haven't seen this person in 2 years. I wonder what happened to them. And no one has taken the time to check in. Why did you stop coming? And sometimes the answer to that can be as simple as, I don't have a way to get there now, or this situation has changed. And some of those things are addressable if you really look into it. And I was very fortunate because I did have other people in the house to check on me. I have an LPN in the house who I text my test scores and results every time I get them. This is what they got. This is what I received. And he gives feedback, or he'll talk to a doctor at the hospital where he works and say, they said you should ask this question. And that's been really helpful, but also to drive me around because now I have a driving restriction where I can only drive an hour away from my house. And I have travel restrictions. I can't commute to my office, which is in Manhattan, because it's over an hour away. So I have to work from home. And a number of those things piling up and then not being able to attend events is hard. So when people offer me a ride to get to an event, that makes it so much easier for me to get there. Getting there, someone offering, making sure that there's a seat or checking in. Hey, are you okay? You've been standing for a while. Do you need to sit? Sometimes I'll say no. Sometimes I'll say absolutely, thank you. But those kind of check-in things are really important. And we can't let people disappear. The leather community, for so many of us, is our family. So many people in our community, we are not with our biological families. Our leather community, our dynamics, those are our real families. And so when we are dealing with that, the loss of that family is huge. Then it's double for people with disabilities who may have lost their biological family because they are identify as somewhere on the queer spectrum, and then lose their leather family because now this physical condition or this mental or emotional condition is restricting me from being there. I feel bad for the leather bar is the cornerstone of the leather community. But then you think, if you're a sober person, if you're someone who's battling sobriety, just the fact that so many of our events are centered around alcohol makes it restrictive for you to participate. So, what are we doing to create leather opportunities that are not centered around alcohol? In a club or a bar where the music is really loud, what would it take to create a quiet space so that if people just needed to get away from that sound or from these lights that may be triggering them, they could go into a quiet, darker space, settle down, even if it's just emotional or anxiety, just to be able to recenter and then rejoin instead of there is no place, so I'm going to leave. And that's when we're talking about accessibility. This is why it's so important for event planners and venue managers and owners to really consider what does this space, what can we do to make this space, whatever it is. And the beginning of my leather journey was primarily spent in New York City. And there you get what space you get. New York City spaces are not large. You are very lucky to have a queer space. But what can we do even in that queer space to make it something that is accessible, even if it's just a little accommodation like putting the wristband on the right wrist? Sometimes just something that small can make the biggest difference for someone. And so asking those questions, training staff, and making sure that even in advertising the space, let people know the sound is at this decibel. We have this type of lighting that could cause issue for people with sensitivity to this type of light so that people are aware. But also being aware as a business, if you know these types of lights can trigger these populations, what can you do with your lighting that still makes it fun, but isn't going to be harmful? And so, in a number of these ways, there are a number of ways where we can really be mindful of people. But even as event planners, Reese, one of the things that he would do every year was a picnic during their Black Gay Pride thing. And his pick, if you were sober, you can come to this picnic. If you didn't have a lot of money to go to the other events, you could come to this picnic. If you were, regardless of disability, space was open enough. If you had a wheelchair, you could come. If you were on crutches, you could come. So it was very well thought out and laid out for everybody to be there. So that if you're talking about inclusivity, you're really living. And that's the thing that's really important.
I love that. I'm literally thinking about, I'm like, if I go to another space and there's a dark room so you could fuck, y'all could have had a quiet space somewhere.
You could have a quiet space.
Let's see. I don't went into the dark room. I'm like, I think you could chill in here. Boo, that's not what this was for. And I found out very quickly that
And,
it's not a
and
place to come. So, oh, there's people in here. Let me get the fuck out.
But if you think about regular businesses, and the leather community is a part of society in general. So all of the societal ills that people with different abilities have to deal with exist in leather. So we can just start from there. But businesses have found room to have family restrooms with changing stations, to have nursing rooms for mothers who need to nurse and things of that nature. So if businesses can find this, our queer businesses can also figure out a way to have a small space for people who are sober. Events, these weekend events can have the sober bar space. So people, because it's not only people who are battling an addiction, some people just don't enjoy drunk people. And so if I want to be in a sober space where I can really rely on conversation, why not have a bar space with mocktails or just juice and soda that can also be a social space instead of everybody at the bar? It's really just thinking a little bit outside the box to make the space you have work for everyone. And that is so simple. And those little steps would bring more and more people out. And to touch on the question you asked earlier that we really didn't answer about who's missing, we don't know who's missing because they're not coming. But what we do know is that there are a number of amazing people in our community who can teach you more about kink than you've ever known, give you pleasure like you've never experienced. And we're not getting that because we are not making spaces comfortable for them.
Yeah, when you go into a space like without even saying anything, you know who it was set up for, right?
Mhm.
You know who you wanted to be in that space. You know who was thought of. And when people are like, I just don't know, I'm like, conversations like these and folks that are in community are saying these things, but we said the presence of applying and not being performative. If I hear accessibility in an inaccessible place again at a conference, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, accessible where? What? That and diversity. I'm like, please. I'd rather you show me than say it because now it's becoming performative. I want to ask y'all, One or two more questions before we take a break and then open up as a community conversation. And I would love you to stay to be part of that community conversation. We talked about spaces, we talked about organizing, we talked about really holding space for each other. But y'all are in a dynamic, and I want to hear about how disability, like, how has disability or like even the changing of your body, Master Steel Toe, that you talked about, how did it actually deepen and transform the way you show up in your dynamic? And what has it taught you about service and connection that you couldn't have learned any other way?
I'll jump off. As my health issues started to deepen, I felt like my house was the first group in leather that I needed to be transparent and vulnerable with. Unfortunately, our dynamics were already set up to have these kind of conversations, even though typically that information was flowing from the other direction. But I did feel like it was important if I'm going to ask for vulnerability and openness from them, then I need to model that. So that was the first group of people that I really started sharing that information with. And the reception from them was so positive that it made it easier to really go out. And sadly, I heard a whole bunch of my own words coming back to me. I heard things that I had said to Reese to tell him, get out of the corners. The people who are looking at you want to have sex. They are not looking at you because they think you are some kind of deformed human. Get out there, talk to people, be the leader you are and have been. And it's like those words hit different when I was applying them to me, I will admit openly. But that was how, for me, it started the ability to be vulnerable and then to even take it a step further and identify. Reese had been working in a hospital, started a nursing program. Now he's an LPN. Now he's studying to be an RN. And he has access to all of these amazing doctors at a very good hospital. So then he's been able to serve me in different ways by being a check-in for me when I have a question about something, I get a test result I don't understand, or even just to be like, keep an eye on this thing. Earlier today, for some reason, I thought it would be wise to put physical therapy, my prep shot, and this all on the same day, as if I wouldn't physically be affected by that. But when I was getting my prep shot, I'm sending Reese text messages about my blood pressure and my current weight and being all excited about it to share. So it's actually opened up some doors in ways for me to get support from the subs that I'm in dynamics with and to really open up honestly about how they could support. I remember Boy Forge before he passed. He knows I like my lawns to look nice. I like flowers and stuff. And he loved gardening. And he would come down and make sure my lawns were great. Shoveling is something I can't do when it snows, making sure that I'm snowed out. It's like, how are you going to come? I'm like, don't come from Connecticut in a blizzard to shovel at my house. I don't want anything to happen to you. But once the roads were clear, he'd be right there. So it really opened up ways like, how can you serve me in ways that were different now that I have different needs? And different ways where your service could really be helpful to me. And when people show up in those ways, it just really deepens the connection and everything. And so I think having that open, honest discourse, modeling vulnerability, it's not just that I need to be vulnerable, I need to model that. I need to make it so that no one can ever say to me, that if they're having a hard time with being vulnerable, the one thing they can't say is that I'm not doing it. And so those things are really important. I've also tried to do that with the community, just posting, hey, this is what's going on. This health battle is ongoing. I'm not giving up, but this is what this next season is going to look like so that people know what they can expect. Because initially, when I had to start canceling things that I had booked, I really felt like I was not living up to my obligations that I had agreed to. And I felt like I was letting the community down, only to be reminded later that it wasn't letting the community down. It was making sure that I was in a position to be helpful and useful to the community later. So those were the things that I took from it.
I love how you gave us beautiful examples on how to protect the meaning of the dynamic without clinging to the form it used to be, right? And allowing evolution over time and allowing for it to actually transcend to something even deeper than you thought it initially was going to be. And I'll let Rish end off like, how has it deepened or transformed service and connection? Or has it?
For me, within the dynamic and within the house, the reassurance that I received really helped me be more comfortable with play.
Disappeared.
From birth. So I have very limited movement, and there's definitely a deformity of the left hand guaranteed. And because of that, growing up, the safest way for me to live life at that time, I thought, was to compartmentalize. So it was me and my hand. It was me and my disability. I never really saw myself as a cohesive being. It was always me. And in addition to me, there was this disability. Within the house, one of the things that they did, I don't even know if they recognized that they were doing it, was the reassurance of my wholeness. It was the permission that you can touch me and you can touch me with both of your hands, which was huge for me because I didn't ever see my left hand as a part of myself. I know it sounds weird, but I didn't really see it as a part of me. So I never would touch someone with my left hand until I was maybe in my 20s. I wore long sleeve shirts for most of my life, or I would throw a jacket or something over my arm to try to hide my hand because I was so fearful and lacking confidence. But within the house, they were like, we aren't doing that. Come to me. You're all right. It's okay. I know you're not comfortable today. That's fine. Tomorrow. So they were patient with me. They reassured me that not only am I attractive, but I'm deserving. I know I say that a lot, and I've been saying that a lot tonight, but that was huge for me.
Oh, I hate to lose this
I know
point.
I'm like, come back.
Was the main thing to get myself together. And my brothers definitely were very patient and are still very patient with me, but I have come a very long way because of that. Their reassurance and pushing of me, I wouldn't have gotten outside of this dynamic, and I would not be the kinkster and the leather person I am today without it.
I appreciate us both, all of us having this conversation. I'm going to read some things in the chat. Then we're going to take a 5-minute break, put some discussion questions up, and I hope y'all stay for the community discussion to have a conversation. But round of applause, everybody. I want to see all your reactions in the chat. Throw them up. I often come to community conversations, but I'm not left with tangible things. And I have so many things, Master Steel Toe and Reese, that you gave us to think about, to go back into our communities and apply, to maybe rethink in our own dynamics. Well, I appreciate I don't went to an intensive course in the last 40 minutes. So I appreciate you. I'm going to read some things in the chat and then we'll take a little break and come back for our community conversation. So in the chat, I got, hold on.
You want me to read some of them, Izuli? I've been copying and pasting.
Okay, yes, sir.
Kitty said, true, I don't go out a lot. I don't go to a lot of things because I am too afraid. I'll have a meltdown if I get overwhelmed and cause disruption because it happened before and was not well received. Pre-pandemic, people didn't talk about this stuff. They also said, yes, getting out of your head is good. It's literally terrifying. 8 to 10 times I am considering which of the things is going to make someone uncomfortable and considering if if there will be a bad reaction or not, but also, should I not have community? You are deserving of community. Mixed Jade said, consider me, don't impose your saviorism on me. Performance denied. Akasha said, also, I've gotten injured many times from folks trying to help or anticipate helping me without asking. Folks don't think about it not only being inconsiderate, but dangerous, which is true. Kerr said, I really appreciate Master Steel Toe speaking on this. When my chronic pain and fatigue got to the place of me stepping all the way back, I felt like I lost a sense of community in the process. These words are a gift. Thank you. Sam also said, this is so important and vital. When it does not happen, the rejection, not being seen or valued, is horrible, especially being involved with a group for years. This is something I want to practice onward too. Mental disability should absolutely be always considered as well. It affects the physical disability there too. Did I read that properly? I think I did. Sorry if I didn't. Those are the things I took from the chat.
Love that. And I love how Vinny said, we don't know who's missing because they are not coming, Master Steel Toe to Boot Black. All right, so we are going to Vinny's going to put up the community discussions. We're going to take a 5-minute break. During that 5 minute, go to the bathroom, get you a drink, take a screen break, or look at the community questions and get ready to have a conversation. So I'm excited to hear from everybody.
Me too.
Sir, you beat me to the timer.
Because you're not supposed to be doing anything.
You're supposed to be resting. So hopefully you sit with these questions. How do we stay rooted in our leather and kink identity when our access to community spaces we love have either shifted or was never built with us in mind? Which of our community norms, consent practices, or protocols actually harm disabled, neurodivergent, and autoimmune compromised folks? What is the one accessibility failure repeated across almost every community space you've been in? And when disability changes the protocols, rituals, and ways you serve or lead a dynamic, how do you come to terms with this shift and still feel valued? All right. Sit with it, come back with it, and we're going to get to it.
Thanks, Izuli.
Don't touch my hair nor my chair. Come on. Don't touch my chair. Yes. Yes.
I'm just sitting here thinking how good that conversation, that interview was. So many gems were dropped, and I haven't felt so seen in a long time. That was really good.
And like y'all together, I'm like, powerhouse.
Sure.
I just kept seeing Master Steel Toe like smile when Reese was saying stuff. I was like, he's doing a good job, ain't he? All smiling.
It's wonderful to see so many people, their heads shaking. Yes.
That was my only regret, was like, oh, I don't have my notebook right here. That's my only regret. I will be rewatching.
I got my book.
I know you do. You got your book and your pens, everything.
I do. And just for that, I don't know.
And I'm about to call some people out because we be having these conversations on the phone. So I already get ready for it. I'm gonna call y'all out. You already know it.
Oh.
Oh, I love that. Jazz, I hope you take some notes and it serves your dynamic. Appreciate you.
Come on, Mr. Cheeks.
That could be a service stop.
You've been servicing too much, and I don't know what to do. I got to redact my comment about putting you in a box.
Yeah, you're Aquarian in me.
Oh, it's doing a lot.
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Sound like he in there rapping with you because
It do.
you can't hear the music. You can only hear him rapping. I'm like, where your friend at? Put your little friend on the camera. Let me hear them.
We are at the 30, we're beyond the 30-second mark. Just letting y'all know.
Come back, y'all. Bring it back, y'all.
Sorry, let's get some.
I am for real. Really? That's
Wow.
so dramatic.
Wow.
Wow. It's
Wow.
Disney Princess. Dude, welcome back, y'all.
Anyway,
All the littles in the space are like, oh my God, I feel seen.
Movie night.
All right, we ready? Let's get ready for this community conversation. Take 1 second to look at the questions. Also, feel free to throw your own question at us, right? We're going to talk. This is not a Q&A. We're going to be talking the whole time. These are discussion guidelines. Go back.
Oh.
You're invited to contribute. We will use the stack method. So raise your hand. We'll make sure we get to you. If you are somebody who's consistently talking, we'll ask folks who haven't spoke to let them have priority. But yeah, be respectful, listen to each other, be in a space. And I know sometimes Zoom, we just like to listen, but we talking, y'all. All right, so let's get to it. I'm gonna, Mix J, where you at?
I'm here.
I'll put you on the spot. You always have beautiful conversations. I remember us having a conversation where you had me thinking about community norms to really think about how there's ableism in some of the things. And I remember you were like, yeah, that enthusiastic consent, that's ableist. I remember you saying even the way sometimes we negotiate can actually be problematic. So I was just wondering if I know that you teach on accessibility and disability. What are some of those things in community that we've talked about that you're like, I wish people would really reconsider that? And if you have any of your own thoughts, any questions that you want, I just wanted to start it off because you always get me thinking.
Hello, everyone. It's Jade. Pronouns are she and they. We have conversations all the time. My mind is always going, and I don't just think about my perspective as a person who has a physical disability that's obvious, but also the unseen disabilities that I have that people may not know about in just having conversation with me or seeing me. But also talking about other disabilities that people don't talk about. So the one that you had mentioned about the enthusiastic yes. And that is something that I have learned in community, having intentional language around and expectations of what people's outward expressions are supposed to look like what the norm, quote unquote, is when we're talking about people who may be autistic or neurodiverse in different types of ways. Their excitement does not show up on their face the same ways that other people's may. So tone sometimes doesn't show up the same way that you expect it. So actually having a conversation about what does your excitement look like? And that's part of negotiation. So to now put a less ableist way of negotiating by including those things and by thinking about those folks who may not present in the ways that we assume people are meant to present is one of the ways in which I think about those things. Or when we talk about quiet rooms, we don't talk about the fact that those quiet rooms are not well lit sometimes. They're dark rooms. And I know that we're feeding one need, right? But we also have to consider another need. Somebody might be light sensitive and also be sound sensitive. Someone may be sound and light sensitive, but also physically can't walk in dark spaces. And so there needs to be some consideration of what types of light affect people in different ways. Master Steel Toe talked about using blue light versus using a flashing light or a red light, and thinking about the fact that we can't always fit everything, but all of us can actually help each other by going to those events and writing down what we see. So a lot of us journal after an event as part of our self-care, aftercare, and our drop care, right? And when we do those journals, we talk about what we've seen, what we felt. So maybe taking up something that might be very important that you notice around accessibility, or what it would be like if you put yourself in someone else's experience, and maybe logging it. So one of my projects that I'm doing has to do with charting that information from different districts, different events, different spaces, and putting it all in a resource that can be used for the community. And so that way someone can have it pinned or posted on their website and click on it and be like, oh, they have such and such amount of stairs. And so that way we are using our disabled, Black, fat, whatever your experience, monies toward the things that actually see us and that we can actually utilize. Thank you.
You gotta watch. Mix J got these eyes. And then you just be like, I think I'm underneath the trance. And now I'm just looking at you. And you find literally, I went to self and I was like, can I sit in your lap?
Yes, you
And Mix
can.
J was like, yes, you can. And I literally sat on their lap and kicked my feet like a little boy. And I was like, I
Mhm.
care if anybody questions my identity. I'm gonna enjoy this motherfucking moment. And did and had a great time. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I was thinking about you recently because I went to Emsel and I was playing with somebody and we were doing some impact and I'm like, okay, can we use the number system? I want to make sure that because we're playing for the first time that I have multiple check-ins and I know that some people don't like that, but I want to play with you a little bit and do multiple check-ins and they're like, my brain does not process numbers. That number shit
Mhm.
actually confuses me and frustrates me and been taught that. Can we try this? And because
Mhm.
we had got to know each other and that softness, they felt like they could say that to me. And I was like, damn, I didn't even think about, or I'm thinking about this thing is going to help you. You're actually like, nah, boo, that's actually going to make it worse. So can we do this
Okay.
other thing? My brain don't do that. So I think that idea that you're putting together with not going online, because I feel like sometimes when we go online, things are very separate from the human experience, but you doing oral history of what do actual lived experiences and how do we use lived experiences as a resource to give people ideas. I
Mhm.
love that. We need that. So thank you so much for even bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else want to say something in the space? Because I'm a whole teacher. I will pull all of y'all.
Master Steel Toe put something in the chat. Master Steel Toe is asking, can we also talk about emotional support?
Master Stilto, you want to come off of mute and say what you want us to talk about?
Yeah, so I know for me, having a community of people who I could reach out to when I am very low, I reached a point where I was at my wit's end with dealing with my condition and separate from leather and everything else. And I started seeing a therapist, which was amazing. And I feel like everybody should have a therapist. I restarted therapy at that point. But I also had a group of people who I reached out to on this call. Mixed Jade is one of them who probably doesn't even realize how many times she walked me back from the ledge just with a phone call or a check-in. And it's very important as we talk about community, it's very important to invite people in the community to be a part of your support experience. And as part of my therapy, I joined a chronic pain support group and I would attend those meetings. And just having other people who instantly understood is just mind blowing. And the same joy we get when we're talking to other kinksters and leather people, because there's that kinship and that understood language and all of that. The same thing happens when we're dealing with some of our issues. Having a group of people and my community of people isn't huge. I've never been one to have huge circles. It's 3 or 4 people that I can really trust, and that's what works for me. But I was also just interested in hearing from other people about some ways that they have found or implemented or created space to be supportive of each other, or how you've experienced support in the community so that maybe other people on the call on the Zoom can kind of take away from that and build on it and incorporate it.
Mhm.
I see you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I realized I was like, we actually not in class. I could just turn my mic on. Yeah, I still don't because I have been disabled so much longer than I've had a support. And I also feel like there was a period of time where I had support, but I didn't imagine it as support. And so I wasn't asking for support. And so I was having less support. And I feel like it is really important to have that idea of who that support is because then when I'm in the place where I'm like, ugh, I can't do this thing and I want to be able to do this thing. And now my ego's all messed up because I think being able-bodied is the pinnacle of being masculine or something like that. When my brain is there, I'm not thinking about the support, or it's hard to think about the support. It's hard to pull up the support. But if I've done that work already, yeah. So some of the ways that I do that work, I'm a very prescriptive person. So I literally have a little in my notebook, I'll write my name in the middle and I'll literally have people. And I'm like, this is the ring of support that's directly next to me. This is the outer ring of support. This is the bigger ring of support. And I actually think this has helped the people closest to me support me more
Mhm.
because people get tired. And when I'm in a place of not being able to think about my expanded networks and someone is supporting me on a regular basis, they can get tired. My support networks be disabled too. And so knowing that there's that other person that I can call helps me feel, takes the stakes off of those close relationships and reminds me that, oh shit, I actually got three rings here. Each one maybe has one or two people, but I have the cushions. And then quite literally, I learned something from the trans community actually, which is that I just went through a major surgery and I made a care sheet, and this is something that I learned how to make from trans people who got gender affirming care. I would literally make a sheet with all the days, be like, put your name if you come in the morning, put your name if you come in the afternoon, put your name if you're coming in the evening. And I was like, surgery is surgery. And I made one. And for the past 6 weeks, I've had people showing up, and it was amazing to see how many people you don't even realize will pull up for you if you ask. But if you don't ask, you really don't know. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you for sharing that. And you are absolutely correct about if you don't open your mouth, you cannot get help. And I say that because that is my main problem. So you calling me out a little bit, but that's all right. I see we have a couple of hands raised. The order we'll go in is Sir Raven, then we'll have Kitty Hyatt, and then we'll have Nero, and then Runa.
I will pass and let someone else go, let Kitty go,
Okay.
and then you can come back.
Kitty, you can come off mute.
Okay. So support is complicated, even for a person that tries to build communities for disabled people to have support in for myself, because I've experienced times where all of my stuff's invisible to other people until the moment it's not. And so people are so used to me being functioning that the moment that suddenly I need help, it's often met with do the thing that you always do, right? And I've experienced that so many times. And I teach people, I'm like, it's okay. Your functioning ability or whatever people want to call it changes, even for people who aren't disabled. It changes for everybody. So the fact that we tend to feel shame or anything around that is always a lot, but it also does make sense because the help that we end up needing is for some people it doesn't make sense to them. And I never know how to explain it. It's because I had to teach people who were disabled, who didn't want to admit that they had their own disabilities, that I had disabilities. And then that it was hard for them to accept because that made them look at themselves and be like, okay, but if you struggle with that, then that means that I also struggle. Yes, yes, you do. And that's okay. We can work together. We can be community for each other. It's not a bad thing to struggle. It's not a bad thing to get help. And so sometimes support is hard to find just because people can't admit that they themselves need help. Because, of course, we have a lot of people with undiagnosed things. That's one of the huge things that I've spent with in the last couple of years is having a parent who works with disabled children, who looks at her disabled children and says, okay, but you just have to get over it because that's the world we live in. Get over it, do the thing. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And so sometimes it just gets a little bit scary when you're trying to reach out because you never know if you're reaching out to the wrong people and how to figure out people's limits, especially if they don't even know their own. Sometimes people just keep pushing until finally they snap and they're like, you're too much. And that's not a us problem necessarily. That's a them not knowing themselves, them not being able to communicate that until they finally do. So I just try to keep that in mind just because since I've had so many problems with people misreading me as an autistic person with extremely high anxiety and PTSD and stuff and being misread often, that I did not necessarily do anything wrong. We just weren't communicating effectively, and that does happen.
Thank you so much for that comment, Kitty. We're going to pass it over to Nero.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the team for holding it down while I convalesce. I think for me, support, in order for me to accept support, I had to really come to terms with, like, echoing a little bit of Kitty, is knowing that I need support, but also knowing what kind of support works for me. Because people were talking about earlier, sometimes the support you want to give me doesn't make sense for what I have. It can be dangerous. I can trip on you, this, that, and the third. Sometimes what you got to offer is just going to stress me out more, and I don't want it. And so sitting down, it's what I taught some S types before you go into a scene and before you go into these big things, sit down and write the things you need and prepare yourself aftercare back. So having that is kind of the same thing. Okay, this is the type of support that I need for when I have this thing. This is the type of support that I need for when I become nonverbal because of something happened. This is the type of support I need when I'm triggered about these. So having that understanding of myself really help me accept support because even if you don't know it, I can either show you or you know that somewhere around there's an access to it, right? So you're familiar enough with me at this point to know that the support that I need isn't what you think, but it is what I already have in mind. And that can evolve. The more you trust someone, the more you're like, oh, maybe your way is better, right? Maybe I can use your arm as a cane for this moment. But if we both can't do it, please don't try to give me your arm because we're both going to end up on the fucking floor. So for me is really knowing what I need and what support looks like for me in whatever situation that I am going through. Because as you guys could see, I'm not very good at not taking support. As Sir just told me without telling me to sit my ass down. Even though I was sitting my ass down anyway, that's all I was gonna say. So I'm passing it down.
Thank you so much for that comment, and we are glad to hear your voice on tonight. I'm going to read a comment in the chat before I pass it over to Runa, and that's from Star. She says, support really does make a difference. When I was getting back into community after my injury, the support of my siblings really strengthened me and helped me stay strong within my identity when I felt weak. It helped me to grow and be more confident when I needed it the most. And it's a lot of stuff coming up about identity when you can't do what you want to do. You almost start to question everything. I'm going to pass it over to Runa if you can come off of mute.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually a great segue into what I was going to say and kind of touching on what Nara was saying. I've just been, I think the fourth question about how disability changes the way you serve really speaks to me in that I'm a very service oriented S type. It's not a chore for me. I enjoy it. It's where I feel the most myself. But a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and it made me realize really quickly that my body has real limits that don't really care whether I like service or not. And so I went through a struggle of kind of feeling these things being in direct conflict because I feel like some of service culture speaks to how maximum devotion, whether that's to your D type or to your community, means maximum sacrifice or the most sacrifice you can make. I realized a lot. I was coming up against those boundaries and had internalized that. Coming to terms with my new disability in a dynamic and in community made me realize that I had to confront what service looks like, but also how I was valuing myself within a dynamic and how I was tying that to how much I could do. I've started working on a reframe. It's in progress, but just thinking more about sustainability as kindness and reframing the question of not how much am I willing to give up, but what does a dynamic or what does my relationship to community look like when it's built to last? Because at the end of the day, if I'm skipping rest, if I'm ignoring my body, or if I'm deprioritizing my own care for my community, to show up for my own community or my D type, I'm borrowing against capacity that I don't have. And at some point, that time will come due. And then everything suffers and I have to act completely, put myself on pause. I've just been trying to reframe how sustainability isn't a compromised version of service. It is the thing. And that reframe has helped me feel more valued again, not despite my limits, but with them as part of the picture.
Thank you for sharing that, Runa.
Absolutely.
Sir Raven, did you want to jump in before I hand it over to Mixed Jade?
No, let Mix Shade.
Okay, Mixed
No, no,
Jade, you
no,
can
I'm
come off.
sorry. Jazz has something in the chat.
Oh, okay. I'll read it for you. Jazz says, I currently struggle with the balance between service and my chronic pain with lupus. It's really tough to parse out. And we are sending you a bunch of love on that because that's not easy at all. Yeah. Mixed Jade?
I was just going to say, in relation to how support looks, especially within dynamics as well as in like organizations and groups, being part of groups and making plans and things like that, being considered in a way where it's not an afterthought, where we're firstly thinking about what the space looks like, all the members that are included, all the people in your house when you're making decisions about meeting at events or going to meetings or going to an event together, not waiting to the last minute and one person kind of shouting out or making it known that, oh yeah, this person has a disability, or are we considering those things? So before we plan the event, we were looking at who we're connected to, who we're involved with, who we desire to reach the population, the folks that are part of our community, quote unquote, and making those plans, firstly thinking about those things and considering from the start, not an afterthought. And then secondly, I was thinking about the fact that having folks who are aging or disabled or go through a major surgery, Star was talking about, thinking about the fact that your support and your shift should be human first. And so if you're always coming from a human first, who you're serving or who serves you, you think about the fact that this person's body is going to change at any given moment. We have to consider the whole human and everything we do, as well as how we love on folks and how we support folks. For me and mine, when I noticed, I come from a massage therapy background, so I'm always watching. So when I noticed that some of my chosen started shifting in the way they were walking, I started considering, hey, have you gotten this checked out? This could be a possibility. And then what could we do if you do have to have surgery or something like that happens that's intense? And so keeping your eyes out and considering what that service is going to look like and reminding folks that you're still valued, not based on your ability to do something or not do something, but the fact that I have invested in you, or you invested in me, and you're a human who deserves love, care, and respect. Thank you for all those who are being vulnerable and supporting one another and choosing to be here. Thank
Thank you for that, Mixed Jade. We really appreciate the comment. Sir Raven?
I wanted to go back and touch on what Master Stilto was talking about earlier. I know for myself, when I went to Emsel, I usually like to have my own room because I need to have that time to decompress. I need to be able to step away. But what I found was that my room became, I was able to offer my room because I was alone in my room, that I was able to say to some people at Imsel, yo, if you need a quiet spot, if you need to just get away, here's my room key. Go into my room and decompress and do whatever it is you need to do so that they have that kind of moment because I know I needed it for myself. And that was like, I didn't realize that I was going to do that because I am an introvert, but it's it became something that I realized that people really affirmed when I didn't go to Emsel. It became, who are we going to have to go to the room? You know what I'm saying? It became this thing. And I really appreciate the fact that they were able to see it and recognize it. And even though I wasn't able to go to Emsel this year, that people were still like, we need to find a space. Whose room are we going to use to find a space to like just chill? Also, when I went to Emsel, that I found that I had people were able to say to me, and I was able to take the suggestion to go and be quiet, even if I wanted to stay outside. They were able to say to me, hey, come over here and sit over here in the grass, get this chair, and you're going to sit down, and no one's going to come over here and talk to you because they were going to be the guard. They were like, no. Everybody's, oh, Sir Raven. They were like, no. Sir Raven needs to sit quiet and go to the quiet spot. And I was able to do that. And I really appreciated the fact that people were able to felt comfortable enough and knew me enough to say, you need this space. You need to sit down. You need to have this quiet spot, even if it's outside in the yard, that you can like still enjoy what's happening in the courtyard, but still have that space where I can still be quiet and just enjoy it and not have people like talking to me and all of these kinds of things. So I really find that even that kind of little bit of here's my room key, go to my room and just chill was very helpful. As Mix Jade said, sometimes people don't think that as you get older, you become disabled, right? And it's not official in a certain kind of a way, but you are disabled. I can't do the things I could do when I was 30. In my mind, I can do it. The body is girl. So what I found is that because there are some limitations to the kind of play that I like, I had to kind of shift. So I do like cigar service, right? So that became a thing. I do boot worship. So that became a thing because I was able to sit down and be comfortable and still get service in a certain kind of a way. And so it made my partner at the time still feel like they were giving service. And I was able to provide those kinds of things. Sometimes we have to shift what it is that we're doing as we get older to still enjoy the community that we've built. I have other things to say, but time is of the essence.
I see Master Silto has their hand up. I saw Butter had their hand up, but I didn't know. I saw it go back down. Butter, did you have anything you want to say?
Rescinded.
Okay, Master Silto.
I just wanted to chime in that for Doms and subs, it's very important to think outside the box, as Sir Raven was just saying, like about ways that you can, that's about how service can look. And I had a boy, and during his time as my boy, he lost a majority of his vision. And one of the things he struggled with was he was a service boy. And so I started getting him to do things for me like research. And that was something that he could do on his phone, get information, bring it back. And it was really helpful to me. It saved me a whole lot of time and energy, allowed me to focus on a number of different things. And that was something that he could do uniquely for me and gave him that sense of purpose and also served the purpose of providing that service. And there's always some way that your service can show up. in a way that's meaningful for both the Dom and the sub. So I just want to encourage people, don't get constrained to the traditional views of what service is in leather. Service is whatever you're doing to provide service or receive service from that person, and you can receive it and love it and applaud it and reward it just as you can any other traditional service that you would.
Before I go to Mixed Jade, we have a couple of comments in the chat that I'm going to read out. Narrow said, being considered is its own love language. It's actionable, tangible. It makes all the difference between the standard and being an afterthought. And then we had Kitty, who was speaking on having an old friend text them a few years ago when something happened to them. And they said that they didn't realize how many times people forgot to plan for me until after the fact and then apologize. And yeah, when the disabled people in your life say they need something, it's cool when it's made to seem optional. And then Kitty was also coming back and commenting on having that extra space in the cons. So Mixed Jade.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. Master Steel Toe brought up the fact of being able to tailor their service person, their act to make sure that they are feeling purposed in your dynamic. And one of the things I thought about is I think earlier it was mentioned about the creativity. And me being the kinky person that I am, I have always thought about how I desire to be served as a person, as a whole person, and not my chair, right? So don't see my chair, see me first. And so the idea of getting out of a car and it may be like, oh, this person's view, outside vanilla folks view this person that's serving me being, oh, just a gentleman, right? Opening the door for me and all that related to gender. And yeah, but that is not what it is. He is my crutch. He is my walker. He is my chair if I need to. Not that he can handle me, but those are the type of things we look at, and being able to use that in your kink and being like, oh, thank you, crutch, and objectifying them in the ways that please them, and then thanking them as a good being, good person, good boy, good girl that they are. And those are other ways to reignite your dynamics in this new pivotal way. And then vice versa, getting a little more assertive and being like, no, I saw you sweating when you were walking. Sit your ass down. I know your hips bothering you. Did you take your meds? You know what? I'm going to cook for you. How about that? And you're going to sit there and be pleased with it. So being able to go back and forth in that ebb and flow is always a way to be able to do that, not only in your dynamics, but for your community. I have other siblings, and my middle sometimes gets to be the big sib. And so I'm like, nope, I got your bag. No, ma'am, I'm not ma'am right now. I'm not mixed right now. I am just your big sis, and I see you need help. I'm going to help you. And so sometimes having those conversations with your sibs and getting that consent ahead of time so that you're not enforcing your stuff on them and you're not doming them per se. You're sometimes just being the big sib and being helpful to them so that you can preserve that friendship, that dynamic in their body as well.
I see we have one more comment with Izzy, but we are tight on time. Do y'all want to have another comment or? Okay, Izzy, go ahead and with your comment.
Okay, hi. I'll be fast. I really appreciate this whole conversation. And I'm thinking about the importance of considering who's in the room and that being a good starting point. The idea of treating access and accessibility not as making adjustments for disabled people, but as an acknowledgement that all humans have needs and that needs are individual and that they change with time from day to day or whatever. And so just building in opportunities for everyone regularly checking in about what they need to show up as fully as possible. And so it makes me think about an organization that I was working with for a while where every single one of our meetings started with an access check-in. And people could say, I need to be off camera right now, or I'm waiting for a delivery, or I don't have a lot of energy, so I won't be speaking, I'll just be listening. But building in structure so that everyone has regular opportunities to say, this is what I need in this moment, knowing that those things are different from moment to moment.
Thank you for that. We really do appreciate it. This has been such an amazing community discussion. Like I said, the interview was absolutely amazing too. We do have some, as we call, last minute church announcements. I'm going to share my screen. Is Sir Raven, are you doing the upcoming announcements? Oh,
I think I am.
okay.
Upcoming announcements, upcoming events. If you are new to Leather is BIPOC, we usually do 1 month on, 1 month off. This is our last. Our next one, we're taking July as a hiatus to put some other stuff together. September 9th, we are doing Leather is Political. If you don't know, you should know that leather is political. We will be having a panel of people to discuss activism, how to join your community board, how to speak in front of your Senate. The midterms are coming up, there are elections that are coming up, and all of that affects not only our community, but the larger community. And that's happening September 9th, so save the date. October 11th, we are doing Leather is BIPOC, a bar night. Thank you, Master Stilto, for talking about how things are in bars. We have big discussions about where we're going to have this, but it's called a bar night because that is part of leather history, right? So that we'll be doing that October 11th. We'll be raising some funds. If you don't know, BLX does our education. Some are free and some are donation based. Our mission is to pay Black and Brown educators and presenters for their labor. So if you're interested in giving a donation, coming to the bar night on October 11th, that's going to be in person. We're going to have some really great things happening at that bar night. Also, I do office hours. You can find my calendar at blx.education, where I do some coaching and leather mentorship. I have conversations to help make things a little bit easier. I've been doing this since the early 1900s. So I know a thing or two or three. So that's also, you can find that at the website. So save the date for those two things, September 9th and October 11th. What
And
else
our
is
Puerto Rican princess has hit me up in the chat to remind us that we will have the 50-50 raffles at the bar night too.
Okay, cool. So also September 17th, we are having Daughters of the Dusk. It's a virtual event. We'll be watching that movie. If you don't know about that movie, it is a fantastic movie. It is only for Black and Brown folks. We will be watching the movie and then having some reflections on the movie. It is a movie about practicing hoodoo, and that's happening May 17th from 2 to 3:30. Also, May 28th, I do a sip and puff where we discuss certain topics. The next topic on the 28th will be leather mentorship. It's virtual. You can find and register for that at all of the links. Izuli, do you want to talk about the real talk?
For House of Supreme, I'm part of a leather education house. My sister is doing Real Talk Consent Culture for Leather, Kink, and Leather folks. May 17th is all about polyamory. How do we support with relationship grief, shifts? How do we have multiple relationships but hold them ethically and caring? If you are already in polyamory or ethical non monogamy or somebody who's interested, come to the circle. It's been really cool.
Thank y'all. And then the last thing we have is our contact information that is also in the chat. Also, if anybody needs the barcodes for donations, this is the barcodes for BLX Patreon, BLX Cash App, and BLX Venmo. And those links are also in the chat. Narrow, yes, I see your hand.
I'm so sorry, Reese and Master Steel Toe, if y'all want to put in your how to contact you all in order to further the conversation, please add it to the chat so people know how to get in contact with you.
I think they put it in. Let me see if I can
Mr.
fit.
Stilto put the
Yeah,
contact information.
I'm gonna
Perfect.
copy it again and put it in there. There we go.
Thank you, Vinny.
All right, let me stop sharing and thank y'all for such a wonderful event and thank y'all for participating. This was such a good discussion tonight.
Thank you, Master Stilto.
Yes, thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And appreciate everyone who shared tonight in the space.
Thank y'all. This was so amazing.
Thank you, and thank you.
Hopefully the travel back to your bed is the safe one. I know mine will be.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all. I'm sorry I couldn't be on camera.
It's
The
all
voice
good.
was serving
Appreciate.
enough,
Yes. Every
okay?
time I kick my
Thank
feet.
you.
This was amazing, family. Thank you all so much for this opportunity. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for
Yes.
how deep your voice has been
Love
this
you.
whole time. I
Oh
love
my
it.
Right?
God.
If you have not considered audiobooks, please consider being a
Please,
narrator
little
for
something.
audiobooks. Yes.
Please.
But before y'all go, I want to say also thank you so much for showing up in such an authentic and vulnerable way. The things that y'all shared was not easy to share, and we really do appreciate that for y'all just coming in as yourself.
You all made it very easy to share.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you for the
Absolutely.
space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you also for smoking with your gloves and cigar on camera. 'Cause that's always a pleasure.
Oh, we didn't know there was a scene happening. Okay.
Okay. Back was
See.
hot.
Okay, ladies, please stay on so I can have a conversation with Naro, Izuli, and Venny. Naro,
Yes.
okay,
And
cool.
being summoned to the office. Oh
Yes.
no.
To the principal's office.
Oh no.
Appreciate it. I do.
Y'all have a good night. Appreciate
Good night.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for
Love
joining us.
y'all.
Buenas noches.
Invite me to the next party. I still want to drink and match dicks again. Come on.
Oh, I want
Okay.
some of that.
When I want to match, I don't have. Wait,
I don't
I
have
might
dicks to
have
match.
one.
Well, you know what? You got a point. You got a point. We do.
I got a dick.
I know you
I
do.
was
Yeah.
matching dicks.
I have drawers full, and the backyard is about to open for barbecues. So I will see y'all this summer.
Can rent a dick.
Drive on a dick to the fucking
All
party.
right,
Come on.
Izuli, calm down. Stop. See, once you get Izuli started, thank you. You're doing wonderful work, Izuli. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Master Steel Tone Reese, beat it.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Y'all.
Because
Bye.
February experiences are better.
Put them
I'm
in the
sorry.
way.
Let me stop the recording, please.
I thought it was stopped. There.
Nope.